And good evening, good Wednesday evening. I'm in Nashville. Dr. Cordie Williams is here with us from California. As always, we're back streaming on all platforms here on the Unalienable Right. So welcome to everybody. It's been a while since we've been able to do a multi-stream like this, but good evening to Rumble, good evening to Getter, good evening to YouTube, good evening to Facebook. No Instagram tonight, but we are back, ready to rock and roll. It's been a pretty busy week. We had spy balloons and the State of the Union and Project Veritas stuff and all sorts of crazy stuff going on. But before we get to any of that stuff, how are you doing, Dr. Cordie? What's going on?
Well, we're just holding it down here in the great Republic of California. Trying to get some of that freedom air that you guys have in Tennessee, where they actually know that kids are supposed to be left alone, and that Jesus is good, and red, white, and blue isn't a satanic symbol like what we saw in the Grammys earlier in the week. What a SHIT show that was.
Sugar Honey Iced Tea, you know what I call it. And I was actually, it's interesting, I didn't put that in the ticker because I talked about it so much this week on some of my other shows, but I did want to get your input and get your feedback on the Grammys. I wasn't sure if you had seen it, but I know it made its way all the way around the internet. It made its way everywhere. What were your initial thoughts when you saw that Sam Smith? The left has not really shied away from Satan. We talked about it last week. With regards to the Satanic Temple opening an abortion clinic, which, I mean, if there's one part of the Instagram Live video, it's that part. That's the part you want to watch because you seemed shocked but not shocked, right? Because we all know their affinity for the devil. They love the devil. They love Satan. They're not ashamed to say it anymore. And yet when we found out about it, it kind of hit like a ton of bricks. And then a couple days later, we see that Sam Smith performance at the Grammys. What were your thoughts when you saw that on the screen?
Well, I mean, we've seen I don't know, two handfuls of these events where, there's from the lady, whoever it was, the popular lady who was covered in blood, or talking about how she, I think maybe even one of the Kardashians, I don't know. I've heard people talk about blood, talk about sacrificing animals, how there are parties where they do that at. And then you have the Satan symbol that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, spelled out in the Christmas elf movie that I did a reel on. And then you have this, and I mean, it just goes back to the communist agenda. It goes back to this right here, Cleon Skousen, this amazing book, right? And the 45 points of communism. And I think that people just have to wake up and realize that it's not a coincidence that you have this satanic stuff going on, a big visor sponsorship lettering or logo comes up right after. And in 2013, I just posted it on my story on Instagram a few minutes ago. We all know about what Bill Gates said on the most controversial TED Talk ever, where he basically said, hey, we just need to lower the world's population by 15%. So now you take the last really 3 years, the last 10 years, and you look up the buildup to this, and I'm not shocked at all, man. I mean, they are so overt because they know they control the media. They know they control the political narrative. They already had the beta test to figure out how stupid people were because they're willing to wear underwear on their face and then think that sitting and standing is the difference between living and dying. And, here we are. So, no, I'm not shocked at all. I'm mortified that it's come to that, and that, I'm going to basically be paying, thousands of dollars every month and year to put my kids through private schools and stuff like that. But it's disgusting.
And I'll put this on the screen in a minute. I'm having issues getting the Getter stream up, which I'm going to try and pop up right now. It looked like it wasn't popping up before, but I'm going to try and get the Getter feed going. Let's see what happens now. But I wanted to put this on the screen here. I don't know if you saw this, but obviously the Grammys was hosted on CBS, and CBS had this. Let me see if Getter's coming on. Let me refresh this and see maybe if it's working or not. It doesn't look like it is. So we're not on. Oh, we are on Getter. There we go. Good. We're live on Getter now. Very good. The Grammys were on CBS. You said it was sponsored by Pfizer, which we saw. Take a look at this. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter. Sam Smith tweeting about how it was going to be a special performance and some behind-the-scenes shots. Did you happen to see what CBS said in response to him?
Yeah, I did, but I can't remember. But it was very, positive and, just giving him kudos and all that.
Yeah, here you go. I'm going to put it on the screen for you now. That's why we can see it because they deleted the tweet. I guess.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
They just deleted it, but thank goodness for screenshots, the wonder and the magic of screenshots. Look at this. CBS says, oh, I'm sorry. Let me see if I could fit this. Let me fit this to the screen. I don't know if it's not, let me see, fit the screen. There we go. CBS says, you can say that again. We are ready to worship.
Oh my God, I did see that, but it didn't sink in. Mm-hmm. It didn't sink in the first time I read it. Oh my God, man.
Yeah. So they say they're ready to worship. And again, I mean, this is one of the larger points that I like to make just in the overall argument, though. I never want to hear the words cult out of the mouths of the left again. Because, I mean, when it comes to behaving like you're in a cult or anything like that, it's not us. It's not the MAGA hat people. It's the Satanists out there. It's the people who are, I mean, this was on national television in prime time. This is not, as Joe Biden, it's not a joke. Not a joke, right? Like, it's not, this is one of those things where, like, people have been saying it for a long time. People have been saying that the left has gained an affinity for the devil, and that whether it's abortion or it's, racism or any of these different, the fact that they want a godless society or that they believe that government is God or anything like that. Now we're at this point where we have media outlets where people get their news. 60 Minutes is on CBS. 60 Minutes, Leslie Stahl coming on there. Sir, it's not verified when Trump was talking about the Hunter Biden laptop and spying on his campaign and all that stuff. Media outlets who are out and out embracing the worship, worshiping Satan. And now, if you want your mind blown one more time, I could do that for you. Why don't we take a look at the lyrics? You know that song, Sam Smith, the song that was involved in the Grammys, that song Unholy? Have you had a chance to look up the lyrics at all?
No. In fact, I couldn't even during the Satanic charade that went on there. I couldn't even make him out in the actual video, of course, right?
Yeah.
Because he's a terrible singer and he's fat and nasty and all that. You call him a he? I don't even know what you call him.
Yeah, he's a non-binary, apparently. That's one of those where, he doesn't know what he is, but his name is Sam Smith, so I call him a he because I believe that's what he was born as.
So if you're non-binary, which means you're N-binary, then are you D-douche? Definitely a douche?
It's very possible. I don't know.
Okay.
But I will tell you this. Look at the lyrics. And I'm going to put this on the screen. I circled a very suspect, we can call it, a very suspect phrase that is in the lyrics to the song Unholy. And again, there's no such thing as a coincidence anymore.
The name of the song is Unholy?
The name of the song is called Unholy, yeah. It's about an unfaithful husband. Daddy's in the body shot, I don't know, doing something unholy. Basically, he left the house and he's cheating on his wife. That's the premise of the song, right? But look at these lyrics. They're on the screen now. Does it surprise you at all? Does it surprise you at all that Balenciaga is actually mentioned in this song? You see that? The part that's circled there? Yeah. Give me love, give me Fendi, my Balenciaga daddy. You're right there. I mean, how many more coincidences do we have to sit through before it's no longer a coincidence, right? I mean, at what point, when all the dots and all the stars keep lining up, are we going to realize that they're no longer conspiracy theories, but conspiracies in and of themselves that we are unraveling? At what point do people wake up and go, okay, so Unholy, the song is called Unholy. It is about, arguably, objectively, it's about an unholy act. Adultery and cheating on your wife. It's one of the worst things you could do. Okay, and you have now the Satanic tribute at the Grammys. CBS saying they're ready to worship, and in the song is referenced Balenciaga. And still we have people saying, well, Balenciaga is a popular fashion brand. That's why it's in the song. You couldn't choose any other fashion brand, you had to choose Balenciaga? You couldn't use. There is a point in time where people have to realize that when you keep being told it's a coincidence, it's a coincidence, it's a coincidence, it's not a coincidence anymore. Satanic imagery, satanic tributes, and what we saw at the Grammys, paired with CBS saying they're ready to worship, paired with hearing that the Satanic Temple opened an abortion clinic, paired with the song being called unholy, paired with Balenciaga being in the lyrics, it's not a coincidence anymore. What we're uncovering now is a cult within Hollywood and the entertainment industry. And I believe it's time for everybody collectively to defund pop culture. Or else you're just going to let your kids get influenced and infiltrated by this stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's where we're at. And I think that, sitting around talking about it, having Senate congressional hearings, which, now, I mean, they always were, to me, an Ambien, right? It's like, get out the NyQuil, get ready to go to bed, and ask Mike Lindell for a MyPillow.
Right.
Right. Because nothing ever happens. Nobody's ever indicted. Charges aren't pressed. Like, why do we need another Senate congressional hearing? So the talk, the lawsuits, all that, I'm at my wit's end with it, because as patriots, that's the only thing we've gone to for 3 years. And, I've said it before. I think I said it last week. That kind of mode of attack is, in my opinion, humbly saturated. So we need something new. So what does that look like? I think it certainly looks like city council meetings for sure. But I think groups that educate parents on how to really, really almost parent their kids, like reparenting, teaching parents just how to and maybe this isn't something you can teach, but there are so many parents that are hooked on their, they're making their next reel, they're on their phone, they're doing everything other than parenting, and they can't notice or see what's happening to their kids in school, right? And what their kids are exposed to, and then what society is exposing their kids to. I mean, my kids never watch TV, and every blue moon something comes out of my kid's mouth, and I'm like, well, I wonder where you heard that. I wonder who put that down and you started picking it up. So I think that we just have a lot of education to do to reframe and retrain folks, and then really getting people off of the last 3 years, what they did, because it's not working anymore. It's not working anymore on any of the battlefields that we're facing right now.
Now we had the RNC elections last week. Harmeet Dillon did not win. Ronna McDaniel is back in there. I know we've had this discussion numerous times. Really, at the end of the day, not much of a difference. Pivoting from that, the Chinese spy balloon took the nation by storm last week. I don't know. We did our show on Wednesday night, and I think it was Thursday that everything started going crazy with this spy balloon. You were in the military. What were your Marine Corps? What were your reactions to this obvious intrusion and invasion of U.S. sovereign airspace? What were your reactions, and how did you kind of how did you evaluate what happened with this Chinese spy balloon? And then they tried to say, well, it happened 3 times under Trump, which, come on, didn't happen. Because if it did, you telling me the media, the Adam Schiffs and the Eric Swalwells and Nancy Pelosi's of the world wouldn't have ran there and impeached them over it? They impeached them over what they call a perfect phone call. It's perfect. The greatest phone call in the history of the world. Impeached. You telling me they're not going to impeach him over a spy balloon? So what are your reactions and takeaways from the Chinese spy balloon disaster?
Well, first of all, we know they're trying to cover for ice cream poopy pants. Mm-hmm. As my son didn't think of that one, but I got to give that one to him now. they're totally covering for ice cream poopy pants. And so, bottom line, you'd have to be, and pardon me for saying this, I'm going to be a little off color for a second. You'd have to be retarded to think that they would spend billions of dollars on a balloon that goes up, and then they're alleging there is no spy equipment, and they're not transferring. Okay, so they just wanted, some kid that's 14 said to whoever it is, President Xi, I don't know how you say his name.
President Xi. I call him Xi. I call him also Winnie the Pooh. He looks just like Winnie the Pooh. You ever notice that? He looks like, and everyone says because Winnie the Pooh is yellow. That's not why I say that. I say it because he actually looks like him. And a lot of people say you're racist. Well, you know what? Xi even thinks he looks like Winnie the Pooh because Winnie the Pooh is banned in China, which is true. Winnie the Pooh is actually, you're not allowed to watch it in China. That's true. It's banned in China. They look exactly like each other, but I apologize. Go ahead.
Is that why? I wonder if that's why it's banned.
Yeah, no, it's
Because
banned in China because Xi is insulted by it. That's exactly why that's a thing. That's an actual thing. Winnie the Pooh is banned in China because Xi knows he looks like Winnie the Pooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look at pictures right next to each other
Oh, yeah.
to see how they look like.
It's great.
Yeah, that's hysterical. I mean, I heard Trump say that, but I didn't know that was why. I just thought Trump was being Trump, right?
Oh yeah. Winnie the Pooh and President Xi, they're like identical twins. But what were you saying about the balloon?
No, it was a happy transition or segue. No, I just think that it's just asinine to think that they would spend billions of dollars. Anybody thinks that is a moron. I mean, but this really shows how the whole democratic, socialist, media, pharmacological machine, they really think that we're just dumb. And a lot of us really are, if we're being honest about it. And we've got a lot of dumb voters. We've got a lot of uninformed people out there that they just want to cling on to hope and a fast resolution. And, it's kind of like building a business or rebuilding a business. Those things don't happen overnight. It takes hard work, and it takes time, and it takes patience. And, this freedom turnaround that we're in after the COVID scam, and really honestly 40, 50 years of people being, just completely reliant on the government, you're reteaching people how to independently think. And I just think that people think there's some fast way out of, everything we've gone through and that we're going through, and there's not. It's going to take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, money and time, and people stepping up and not being greedy about their own capitalistic gain from the movement, because there's so many damn grifters out there.
Oh, it's bad.
It's insane.
Oh, it's real bad. By the way, here's if you look at the screen now, you'll see it. There's President Xi of China and Winnie the Pooh next to each other.
I love it.
So there it is. So there's and it's a thing. It's an article. There's an article there. It's about why Winnie the Pooh was banned in China, because the two do resemble each other very much. Now the Chinese, Brendan, you saw that? She's laughing in the background. You saw that? Yeah. It's Xi and Winnie the Pooh. There's right there. Boom. Winnie the Pooh, President Xi, right next to each other. They are. It's pretty funny. Now. We have the balloon, the spy balloon that came over, and I thought at first, I thought they were talking about Stacey Abrams, and I did the video. I said, when I heard Chinese spy balloon, I thought Stacey Abrams or Rosie O'Donnell joined the Chinese military. Then I found out it was only Whoopi Goldberg. But anyway, we had the balloon that went over the United States. Now, let's track the excuses that they made for the Chinese spy balloon and why they didn't shoot it down until after it crossed the entire United States. So we all know China has bought and owned both Joe and his crackhead, drug-addicted disaster of a son. But we know also that it's not like Joe Biden to stand up for China. They wanted to stand up against China, stand up to China. They wanted to keep it hush-hush. They wanted to keep it, sweep it under the rug so that Taliban Tony Blinken, Anthony Blinken, the one who handed Afghanistan to the Taliban Tony, could go to China and meet with Winnie the Pooh over there, President Xi, right? They wanted the American people not to know about it. It was only until people in Billings, Montana said, what the hell is that up there in the sky? Because that over there is the moon. That over there is something else. Oh, yeah, by the way, there's a Chinese spy balloon. But we can't shoot it down over land. We want to wait for it to get over water. That's what they said, and that's why they originally claimed that they waited so long to shoot it down until it was off the coast of South Carolina. The problem with that story is because they don't want to look like idiots, right? They said we've been tracking it ever since it left China over the Aleutian Islands in Alaska. Now, let me ask you a question. I grew up on an island. You're out there on the West Coast. You know a thing or two about water and islands. An island is what? What is an island?
Well, last time I checked, it's got to be completely surrounded by water.
Okay, good. So now that we know that an island is something that is completely surrounded by water, if you're tracking a balloon that's coming from China, there's a very big, huge body of water called the Pacific Ocean, okay? Does that count? You think that would count as water?
Theoretically,
In theory, the Pacific Ocean is a body of water, correct?
yeah,
In theory, good. Just like the
our
Atlantic Ocean is a body of water off the coast of South Carolina. So you've tracked it from China. You track it all the way to the Aleutian Islands, which is, we just agreed that an island is a piece of land that is surrounded by water. And yet you're saying that rather than shoot it down as it crosses into U.S. airspace in the Aleutian Islands in Alaska, where there's nobody, you waited until it crossed into Canada, then back out of Canada, floated over Idaho. Someone should have shot a potato at it. Then went over our nuclear missile silos in Montana. Then over Air Force bases in, I believe, Kansas, where our stealth bombers are stationed. And then into South Carolina over major metropolitan airports. And then you shoot it down and you say, well, we have to wait for it to be over water. It was over water before it was even able to collect any data on the United States. You knew it was there. You didn't shoot it down. What is going on?
Well, and nobody's saying anything from a national standpoint in the media about everything you just said. Nobody's highlighting that.
And that's excuse number one
I don't
that they
even
made.
think Fox is. And that goes to our problem, man. I think that people don't really realize the level of how effective the propaganda machine has been, how long it's been going on, and how, I'm not going to say we're screwed, but we've got a lot of work to do just on messaging alone, just on messaging and really teaching people how to critically think again. Because, they're literally, I forget what the percentage was, but there was I don't know if it was, I'm trying to remember what poll it was, but there was a poll done, I want to say 6 months, a year ago, year and a half ago, around the public trust of the media. And I think that maybe it was 30%.
That's why we called it the fake news. Now, you being in the military, having served in the military, what is the chain of command like in the military? Is that something where a superior could tell you to do something and you could be like, nah, I think we'll just wait? Is that something that you can, in your experience, something that you could do?
Well, I mean, you can do it. You can certainly do it. But whether you continue to have the nice lifestyle that you have at that point, depending on what rank you are, whether you continue to have your freedom, there's all these things that the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is justice in the military, that it outlines when you fail or decide not to follow an order, and it can actually be death in a combat scenario. Where if you're told, literally in a combat scenario, your commanding officer could shoot you in the head, could kill you, based on you not following an order that put other guys' lives in risk, your life in risk, whatever.
So we have another excuse from the Biden administration as to why it took so long to shoot down the balloon. And he said that he wanted the balloon shot down on Wednesday, but that the military overrode his own commander-in-chief. Is that something that you would see? Now, with this administration, I mean, that is definitely a possibility because our leader is so weak. But you would think if the commander-in-chief of the military says, shoot the balloon down, the military isn't necessarily going to come back and override the commander-in-chief. I don't know if that's even something that can happen. Well, apparently it can. It did. And that's excuse number 2 as to why they didn't shoot the balloon down. Then number 3, this was a good one. There was a rumor a couple of days ago that the spy balloon, this is great. Did you watch it get shot down? I remember watching it on live TV getting shot down. Did you ever see the video of it getting shot down?
No, I didn't get to see it.
Okay. So to watch it get shot down, it was great. You see it floating in the air, and then you see it pop, and the vapors, little white vapors, and the shiny stuff falls, and that's it. There are videos all over YouTube and Twitter and everywhere of people that were in South Carolina. They were rooting it on. It was like watching a football game. They were like, get it, yeah. And it popped, and it was all great.
So massive people were crushed and killed by the massive debris.
Oh, right. It was over the ocean. It is what it was. I had one guy telling me on Twitter, too, by the way. He was like, well, I live in Montana. I was like, great. And if you know that thing's coming down, get out of the way. You know what I mean? Because, it's seriously. So rumor number 3 about the spy balloon, which made me laugh hysterically because I remember watching it and the video was out there for all of us to see, was that they didn't shoot it down. You ready for this? Because it carried explosives. There were explosives in the balloon. This is what they're telling you. I said, okay. Now, I'm not a missile scientist. I'm certainly no Wernher von Braun, the Nazi who put us on the moon, by the way. I'm not an expert in rocketry. I only use Twitter. I've never spoken personally to Elon Musk. However, I do know that if a missile shot out of an F-22 Raptor hit something explosive, you'd probably see evidence of the explosion, right? A big burst in flames, maybe a little fire. There wasn't so much as a spark or like a candlelight flame when they shot this balloon down. It was like a and then the poof, and then it came down. So if it was carrying explosives, can you answer me this one? If it was carrying explosives, why did nothing explode when we shot a missile at it?
I mean, that's a great question, Shawn. And I think the other question we need to ask too is the whole narrative that last couple of days or the last week has been, well, they just had it up there, but it's not spying on anything. It has no technology in it. So it doesn't have any technology in it to spy on things, but it has technology in it to blow up things.
Yes.
I mean, it's just right. It's like, and you get this. I feel like a moron even saying that, right? So it's got special technology, but it's only a certain type of special technology, but it doesn't have that. Oh, wow, it's got debris. I mean, it literally sounds like my 6-year-old trying to lie. And he smiles. He smiles after he's like, yeah, Daddy, I didn't pee all over the toilet because I thought it was fun on the outside of the toilet, because it's what happens when little boys discover what they're carrying, right? And they want to be independent. You end up having a lot of cleanup time. And so, but it literally sounds like all these excuses that you hear from a 6-year-old or a 4-year-old. And I'm blown away that people buy that. And there's a percentage of the country that watches the Clinton News Network.
Oh, yeah.
Watches the other fake news, and they're just eating it up like gravies in a biscuit. And it makes me sick, man, because those are our voters. Those are the people that are going to put us on the cattle carts to a totalitarian, regime. Yep. Or people that we're going to turn to more of an independent structure and are, eventually, hopefully going to be our allies.
Yep. Yeah, they're going to have to wake up sooner or later. They had China, too, China. You had them lying about the balloon. First, they said that, we don't know how it got there. Then they said it may not be ours. Then they were like, well, it was ours, but it was a civilian aircraft. That's one of my favorites. The thing weighs thousands of pounds. It's got all sorts of infrastructure on it and technology. Remember, it's got there's panels, civilian aircraft. I have 3 drones in my apartment right now, little RC drones. None of them look like that. No, it was a civilian. It was a civilian weather balloon. Once civilians are in China launching weather balloons, it just happened to be blown off course. It happened to be blown off course and it happened to fly over our military installations. That's where it happened to go. Now, they say it was a civilian aircraft. First, it wasn't theirs. Then it was theirs. Then it was a civilian aircraft. Then it was an overreaction of the United States to shoot it down. So now it is theirs. And now, you ready for this? China is asking for the debris. It doesn't belong to the United States. They say it belongs to China. What do you think? I think he's going to give it back to them.
Well, there's a stay-at-home dad called a Manny that has a man purse, and he happened to be going out with his dog, Skip. And he was using his drone, and his drone happened to drift 300,000 miles out of the way, go across the Pacific Ocean, and strategically go and not take pictures around all these bases and special destination points. And as a Manny, he knew all that. But we shouldn't even think that, Shawn, because this is a very unsmart, unsophisticated balloon drone that just happened to do all that, even though it's very unsophisticated,
right,
and has computer technology inside of it. Dude, I mean, you just can't make it up, man.
China's ambassador to France, Liu She, said, quote, if a person picks up something on the street and knows who the owner is, he should return it to the owner. During the interview on the French channel, She said that Americans are exaggerating the balloon issue and doubled down on claims from other Chinese officials that the flying object was a weather device, not for spying. On Tuesday, the Department of Defense released photos of the U.S. military's recovery of the balloon and reported that it was 200 feet tall and weighed thousands of pounds. By the way, it's funny because they were saying that. They were showing us pictures of them recovering the balloon, and yet nothing about this potential explosives. Oh, there was explosives in the balloon. In a Monday call with reporters, Air Force General Glenn D. Van Herk revealed that the device was potentially carrying explosives to self-detonate, but can't confirm. Well, again, I can confirm that it wasn't carrying explosives because when you hit it with a missile, nothing exploded. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't need the explanation, but that went out, that leaked out. Oh, it was carrying explosive. It was just excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse as to why they didn't shoot this thing down when it crossed into Alaska. Oh, first it was, well, we had to wait for it to get over water. Well, it came here by crossing over water, so that doesn't work. Then it was, well, it happened 3 times under Trump, even though we know that's a lie. And then it was, well, it was potentially carrying explosives, so we didn't want to shoot it down and have anything exploding and falling, raining hot metal on people. Well, we know that it wasn't carrying explosives because when they shot it down, nothing exploded. Then it was, well, we were jamming its signals and learning about the balloon, learning about it. What are you learning? You're learning that it's floating and taking pictures of nuclear sites in our country. What else is there to learn?
But it's not sophisticated, so we want to learn about it.
Right. It's not that sophisticated. It's just a weather device. But it's also, we have to learn about how the weather device is working. Well, I'm sorry, you didn't recover a barometer when a thing came into fell into the ocean. They're recovering all sorts of spying devices and hardware that was attached to this balloon. So, this whole Chinese spy balloon thing and just looking at it saying, your airspace was violated. Our airspace was violated. Our sovereignty was violated. China wants to call it an exaggeration. A lot of Democrats and people on the left were mocking Republicans. Well, it's just a balloon. Well, it ain't just a balloon. It's taking pictures of things it shouldn't be taking pictures of. One guy even went so far as to say, well, what's the difference between the balloon and Google Earth? That was an argument that someone tried to say to me on Twitter. What's the difference between the balloon and Google Earth? That's what he said. And I go, well, how about you try and show me a picture of Area 51 on Google Earth? You can't. It's blacked out. It's like blurred out. You can't just look at nuclear sites and get all details, and it's also not in real time. But these are the people, like you said, these are our voters. These are people in our country who have fallen for the propaganda, and now they are literally siding with China over the United States. It's exactly what China wants.
Yeah. No, it's like I said, we've got the climax to basically 50 to 60 years of us ignoring our republic being stolen and the rug being pulled out right from under us. And you see it in the school systems, you see it in our state legislatures, but you see it more from a federal congressional standpoint, right, in Congress. And you see it playing out in policies. You see it playing out in the leaders, the land that they're buying up. And I'm going to say this because if people haven't read it or they don't have the list, if I can quit bumping my mic here, this guy right here, it's so pivotal. It literally is the playbook for everything that they're doing right now. And, short game, short term, we're giving them hell. Long term, I mean, we've got to do a lot more than what we're doing. Otherwise, 5, 10 years, 15 years, maybe even sooner than that, we're not even going to recognize this country.
I agree. And we're even hearing stories out of Tennessee. I mean, we're in a red state down here. There's 27 Republicans and 6 Democrats in the General Assembly Senate. And then I believe it's a little not even, but it's there's a little more representation of Democrats in the House here, in Tennessee State Legislature, and people are starting to wake up now. There's a lot of folks though we've met recently, Brennan and I, the last couple of days, who moved here from blue states, who are seeing the warning signs, and I think now And look, it's not as bad as, let's say, a Cuban refugee who comes to the United States and goes, you guys don't know what you're walking into. But I feel like when we see some of the same, like, for instance, we were at the state legislature hearing today for the health committee of the Tennessee General Assembly House of Representatives for House Bill 1, which is going to be banning the use of or the prescription of puberty blockers for minors and mutilation, medical transitions and gender transitions for minors in the state of Tennessee.
Shawn?
What's that?
I said, what's wrong with that, Shawn?
No, nothing's wrong with that. What the problem is, what we had is somebody who came in and spoke.
By the way.
So yeah, I figured that out. I figured that was the case. Somebody who was speaking in opposition to this bill was a young, I guess, man, woman. I'm not sure what this person identified was in high school. Very, very coached, and I'm like, I've seen this before, and it's these coached child props that the left likes to do. They like to sink their fangs into these kids, prop them up, try to use them to gain sympathy, to push their message. This way, if you attack the message, they say you're attacking the child, right? If you attack the Satanic tribute at the Grammys, you're attacking non-binary people because they're going to say you're attacking Sam Smith, not what Sam Smith was doing. If you attack rioting in the wake of George Floyd, they're going to say, well, you're attacking the black community. Meanwhile, all we're doing is actually attacking bad behavior and condemning bad behavior. We're not condemning black people. We're condemning what some people did in the wake of a tragedy, right? But what they like to do is they like to use a community and then say, if you attack the message, that you're attacking the community that's pushing the message. And that's how they scare people into being silent. It's kind of like being one of those refugees from one of those awful countries where I escaped from New York. A couple of other people came from California. Another person we met yesterday came from New Jersey. There were a lot of people who weren't Tennessee natives who saw what was going on going, my goodness, we've seen this before. We got to act now. We got to act now while we still have the majority. We have to act now while we still have the numbers, or else this is going to get washed away and Tennessee is going to become just like New York or New Jersey or Pennsylvania. And a lot of people in Tennessee aren't ready for that yet. A lot of people in these red states they've gotten comfortable. They figured, well, we're a red state, we're good. Well, it's not the case. You've always got to defend what you hold near and dear to you. And if we don't learn those lessons in the conservative states that we have now, there's only going to be a couple of conservative states left. In the next couple of years, because they're moving quick. They're moving quick, and they're using the same tactics that they used to gain a stranglehold in places like New York. They're going to use that here in Tennessee. They're going to use that. They've used it in Pennsylvania. They used it in Virginia until that turn of events happened, and that shocked the world. They were trying to do it in Florida, and that turned around really quick. But they've been trying to do it in Texas. They've done it in Georgia. I mean, there are so many instances of what the left has done to gain power in these formerly red states that they've either shifted it towards being purple or they've flipped them completely to the point where now Georgia, in the last 3 elections, have elected 3 Democrat senators. I never thought I'd be saying that, and yet here we are.
Yeah, no, and it should frighten everybody. Because to your point, politically, the blues and reds turning to purple is a very telling sign about how effective the propaganda campaign is and how much really ideological control they have, right? Like they influence the narrative. And we're out here arguing amongst ourselves. That's why, when people get really stuck on Democrat versus Republican, I'm like, you're not seeing the big picture. You're not seeing that this is an establishment-wide agenda, right? Like there is no difference between Ronna McDaniel, Kevin McCarthy, and Pocahontas, right? Or Kathleen Kamala. I mean, they are the same person. And every single politician at the state or federal level that is a politician with no way of reeling them in, with no barriers to preventing them from staying in office 20, 30, 40 years, these are the ramifications of that. There are other things we did wrong too, but just imagine if we would have had some type of structure to create term limits to keep, men and women that are inherently greedy to somehow have a check and balance to hold them accountable. And I think we're seeing, decades and decades of just the misuse of the system and not having enough checks and balances. And now, we're in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, pardon the pun, and we're having to we're looking at these global projects that took 60 years to implement that are like have been beyond effective for the last 25 years, right? The books in the schools, what's happening with boards of education around the country.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, people are going to school boards and stuff, Shawn, and they're trying to get books taken out of those school boards, but a lot of the parents that are going don't know the first thing about what the bylaws for that school district says. And so they're accepting answers like, oh, well, you'll have to, unfortunately, that's, mandated by the federal government, the Department of Education. There's nothing we can do to remove that book. But then when you go into a rural area like Fallbrook School District, they're like, oh, well, we can just vote on it. So, I mean, give me a break here. I mean, there's a way to shift some of this, but it's all from us being empowered to say, you know what, I'm going to stand up for my kids. I'm going to get informed. And then ultimately I'm going to run for office.
Well, I think you raised some really good points, and everyone's got to somehow find a way to get involved. We were talking to a couple of our new friends here in Tennessee, and one of the women that we met mentioned that she wanted to start, and run for office. And it's as well as anybody that politics is a really dirty game, and the people that you think are going to be your friends are going to turn around and stick a knife in your back quicker than you can blink. But start small, and honestly, locally. Hyper locally, school board, dog catcher, whatever it is you have to do, county clerk or something like that. You may have more influence and more, I don't want to say power, but more, more influence, I think is the word, on your day to day and your friends' day to day and your neighbors' day to day and your friends' kids and your kids and everybody's life than if you were to run for, let's say, Senate or Congress. And maybe the rewards aren't as pretty. Maybe you don't get that big fancy nameplate and the opportunity to go on Fox News, but you do have what's irreplaceable and invaluable, and that's the opportunity to make a difference. That's the opportunity to safeguard liberty and freedom in the pursuit of happiness and the right to life. And I think that if people can understand that message alone, getting involved any way they can, and preserving and protecting and defending what they hold dear to them, whether it's their family, whether it's land that they own, whether it's their business, whether it's their country, or it's all of the above, that should come, before really anything else. We're making a move now. We have on our Rumble channel, Blue Collar Bunch, which is OFP Farms. They're goat farmers from Northern California. Sorry, and they have awesome products. They have what's called the Goat's Kisses lip balm. I'm a chapstick addict, and it wasn't until recently that we looked at the chapstick wrapper there, and they are owned by Pfizer. So that's it. This is going in the garbage. I'm not Pfizer, and there's just so much that we can go to, and we're coming close to the end here. But like Pfizer and their vaccine officer, I talked about it today on LFA, on Ungoverned. Their chief vaccine officer aided the United States government in 2016 in redrafting the gain of function research policies. I mean, this stuff is so dirty and just deep-rooted. There's so much corruption. There's an article here that I wanted to get to tonight. We're not going to be able to, but the former Prime Minister of Israel had mentioned, his name is Naftali Bennett. He had mentioned that Russia and Ukraine last year, towards the beginning stages of March, were almost ready to sign a peace agreement, and the United States and NATO decided that wasn't appropriate. I mean, talk about just keeping things going for the sake of themselves. This world is a really corrupt place. And we've got to get people enlisted and ready to go to take up this fight in any way possible. Nonviolent. I'm not calling for violence and insurrections or anything like that. But it's by any means possible. And if you can't act with your feet, boots on the ground, or knocking on doors, then people are going to have to start acting with their wallets. You talk about that there are folks out there with a lot of money who have the ability to fund really great projects that can actually make a difference. And for some reason, they either don't or they fund the wrong people. And even if it's the regular average Joe, 9 to 5er who's got an extra $5 or $10 a month, go support a conservative project. Go jump on a locals channel. If it's Bongino, if it's Dinesh D'Souza, we have one now, Brendan and I. If it's LFA. Support 1776 Forever Free. Get out there and make sure that if you can't do it, if you don't want to physically get out, knock on doors, if that's too demanding, find a way to help. If you don't feel like contributing monetarily, share posts, enlist your friends, create Telegram, just do something, because doing nothing is going to keep getting us set further back. And we just can't afford that. I mean, this latest news out of Project Veritas that James O'Keefe is being put on a paid leave by the board of directors just a couple of weeks after the Pfizer story is scary stuff. We have to ask, did the board of directors of Project Veritas get bought off by Big Pharma? Yeah. I mean, these are the questions that we have to ask. So out with the chapstick, in with OFP Farms, support conservatives, support patriots, and as Dan Bongino says, create the parallel economy and defund the mainstream. That's it.
I love that. I love that. I could start clapping right now.
Well, of course, I appreciate that. Well, we're getting close to the end, and I know it's getting late for a lot of people out there. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and what they can do to support your organization? You've got 1776 out there, so what's the deal?
Yeah, you can go to Dr. Cordie Williams, DrCordie Williams.com. Or CordieWilliams.com. That'll hook you up on all my socials. If you get unfollowed on something, I didn't unfollow you. It was probably the communists or the Zucks or one of his merry bands of morons. But yeah, check out 1776 Forever Free. Raising some money right now for candidates classes. Hoping to launch those in the next 6 months. And yeah, God is good.
Very cool. DrCordieWilliams.com. Check him out. He's a great guy. We've met once in Ohio at a rally for J.R. Majewski, who should have won that race, but the establishment really screwed him over, and that's a shame because we would have had an amazing fighter in Congress, but I believe the future is bright for that young man as well. And it's been a lot of fun. Until next week, we'll be back next Wednesday, hopefully at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We had a couple of tech hiccups and oopsies today, but we should be good to go next week. If you all who are watching enjoyed it, please take the link and all of the different means of following and watching our show and share it all over social media. If you're on Getter, please hit the repost on Rumble, share the link. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, hit the share button. Do what you've got to do. We'll be back next Wednesday. We're going to be much more consistent as we continue to roll forward with the Unalienable Right. But until then, I hope everybody has a great night. And we both thank you. God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless you guys. See you next week.